The Algebra Project is a curriculum and a way of thinking about math that really focuses on math literacy and student engagement and real-world learning.
The Algebra Project's philosophy for the teaching and learning of mathematics is that math emerges from everyday experiences and from everyday languages. And so we seek to help students, with the help of teachers, structure that language, identify the key features, identify their own symbolic representations, which they then can link to more traditional versions of mathematics that we often find in classrooms. The Algebra Project has really emerged from generations of the Black freedom struggle, and in particular, the voting rights work in Mississippi in the early 1960s. Our founder, Bob Moses, started the Algebra Project with lessons he learned in the process of organizing with local people in Mississippi. And the key thing that Bob and others from the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee learned was that it's the people with the problem that have to be part of designing the solutions. So in the Algebra Project, we have to find ways to ensure that students and teachers are front and center in designing the approaches and really discovering the mathematics. The way that the Algebra Project's curriculum differs from other curricula is that it actually starts with a shared physical event. Kids are drawing pictures, they're writing about it.
The walk around the neighborhood allows students to pick out meaningful experiences for them and create their own trip line, which then echoes all of the mathematical features of a number line and allows them to move around a number line and see the relationships between positive and negative numbers, adding, subtracting, integers, inequalities, relationships.
Students come back, they draw pictures of the trip, whatever has struck their interest. They write stories about things they found interesting on the trip. We call that people talk because there's no mathematics vocabulary being used. It's really the student voice that we're trying to capture. What caught your interest on the trip? The next step in the process is what we call feature talk. And this is a reflective process where students reflect upon that experience, the representations that they've made, and in a sense, they try to answer the question, what makes a trip a trip? In the classroom, we basically select 3 of those features that the students outline to characterize a trip. Every trip starts someplace, it finishes someplace, and there's movement that takes you from the start to the finish. Those 3 ideas are captured in a symbolic representation, or often an iconic representation, that the students create themselves. All of the features that mathematicians call a vector, and consequently the rules for the addition and subtraction of integers, for the solution of linear equations, it's also captured in that representation.
The curriculum targets fundamental notions of location and movement that are encoded in integer arithmetic, addition and subtraction specifically. It targets the process of abstraction and the process of creating and using symbols to precisely represent your ideas about things.
When I think about what algebraic concepts come to life in the trip line module, I really think of some huge ideas about inequalities and relationships. There's number line sense, there's numeracy, basic math literacy. It all comes in this one experience the students have walking around their neighborhood. And also the idea of adding and subtracting integers comes into play. There's talk about variables and relationships. It's really very rich in mathematical concepts and a foundation for algebra. And what's so interesting about the unit is it all starts with a walk around the neighborhood.
The way in which the Algebra Project differs from traditional approaches is giving that shared experience, that opportunity for discourse, and for students helping to create the mathematics. So they're not just studying mathematics that somebody else has already created, they're actually bringing their own experience, their own perspective, their own voice and agency into the mathematics classroom.
One of the reasons I'm such a big advocate for the Algebra Project is because of what it does for students. I have seen my students experience so much growth and just personal feeling good about themselves through the Algebra Project. I've seen students who came into my classroom hating math and thinking they were terrible at it. And by the time they leave, they feel empowered.
In the Algebra Project, we want to figure out how we can be synergistic with the needs of the school. School already has a lot of expertise. We want to be supporting them and not diverting them from their goals.
A big part of our effort in the Algebra Project generally, and specifically here with the Algebra Project Los Angeles Coalition, is to work with teachers. So we have a 4-week program for students, but we have a parallel 5-week program for teachers.
As a teacher, the need that I identified for my 6th grade class was that they needed more engagement activities, and they needed to have ways of solving problems with more than one way. Teachers needed to have opportunities to work together and collaborate around their teaching and their practice, and also around what's happening with student work and student results. As an administrator at the middle school, we needed to basically really dig into our data and see what the needs were based on what the assessments were showing us about students, and then put structures in place to allow the staff to collaborate and work with those outcomes that we wanted to see for all students.
Even when we're not teaching directly the Algebra Project, we're taking from the Algebra Project the spirit of student engagement, dialogues, real-world learning, literacy, numeracy. So that has become part of not just our math, but our science, technology, engineering, and art as well.
The interesting thing about the Algebra Project is it doesn't look the same in any 2 schools all over the nation. And that's really through this design team process, because we tailor the work that we do with each school community that we work with.
It's really about everyone coming together, being very transparent of what you want to see happening at each of the grade levels, making sure that literacy is in the forefront, and having opportunities to constantly revise if you need to and reflect on your practice.
I think the Algebra Project has really changed me as a teacher and allowed me to grow in my thinking of what students are capable of and what mathematics teaching should be.
What we're trying to do in the Algebra Project is provide a floor of mathematics literacy for all children, and to really raise that floor of literacy which is appropriate for life and work in the 21st century.